Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Full Quota podcast. My name is Zampa. I've got Tim Delace here next to me. Tim, how are you doing?
Um, I'm alright, dude. I'm alright. I'm a little bit nervous about this week. We all know
So,
what we're gonna talk about, but I'm
every
alright.
8 years, South Africa enters into a week where the cricket team is center stage, right? Happened in 99, happened in 2007, happened in 2015 because we didn't do anything in 2011. We got knocked down in the quarters, and now the eighth year or another 8 years have gone by. 2023, here we are. It's a week where we hope the Proteas get to play two games, but they have to win the first one to play the second one. And South Africa find themselves in a situation where they're in a World Cup semi-final. Not a lot of people thought so at the beginning of the tournament. I believe that they would make it here. I thought this was the point for them to get here, but I've always said that there's no reason why they can't win a World Cup. So here we are. We've somehow stumbled our way, Tim, to this situation. But before we get into it, we've got a preview. We're going to be talking South Africa and Australia. But remember, you can follow us on Facebook. Not on Facebook, yes, at One World Sports Radio. Please also like and subscribe on YouTube. Also follow us on X. It's not Twitter, but if you know Twitter, it's X. It's X at Full Quota Pod, and send us your comments there. And then we've got our audio version, which is on Spotify at Full Quota Podcast as well as Apple Podcasts. So it's the old foe again. Last time we played Australia in a semi-final, we were embarrassed. As Tim said last week, the Proteas didn't arrive at the anthems against India. In that game, I don't even think the Proteas arrived at the stadium at all. Australia just bullied us in that semi-final in 2007.
India.
It was
Yeah. Sorry.
Yes.
Go on. Sorry.
India was last week. Australia was in 2007. And we play them again 16 years later in a World Cup semi-final. If it's not a semi-final, we beat them. We're currently 4 wins out of 6 against them. They led 2-0 in the series against South Africa, and then we came back. We beat them at the World Cup, and somehow we woke them up because they went to win all the games after that, 6 games on a trot. They've discovered that Travis Head is an opener, which is amazing. We're going to talk about that. There's debate around Marnus Labuschagne and his strike rate of 77, playing like a test match player, but they're keeping him for his fielding, which is weird. He reminded us of Jonty on the weekend. Mitch Marsh seemingly rejuvenated from coming back from home. This Australia team looks like the team that arrived in South Africa 2 months ago in Durban, that whitewashed us in the T20 series. And then we were all staring down the barrel thinking, oh no, the ODI series could actually go 7-0. Or they could win all the games in the ODI series. I think Menes' prediction was like 7-0. It was a massive whitewash. So we've got Menes to talk about Australia and tell us everything that's happened in this most roller coaster 3 months. So let's bring him on and let's talk South Africa and Australia. Hi, Menes, how are you doing?
Yeah, g'day, guys. I mean, look, I was nice to you in the pre-show, but I mean, it's wartime now. I mean, I hope that at the end of Thursday's match, you two are broken men. I hope every nightmare that you lived through in the past, the Cricket World Cup semi-finals, comes back and haunts you again, and it's another Australian victory. Yeah, I had a great day today. I was just sort of thinking back to South Africa's history of World Cup failures, and I had a good giggle. I got to say.
Really, the only good thing for me is that the ICC somehow forgot about 2007. They keep on reminding us about 1999, but they forget that there was a semi-final in 2007 where South Africa got demolished.
Well, I mean, I was looking at that scorecard today, and South Africa were 5 for 27 inside 10 overs, and the game was gone. I think they, scrambled to make 149, so they actually did well. So, yeah, I was reminiscing on that one. I was actually at the game in 1999. I don't know how many times I've told you, but I was actually at that game at Edgbaston, so it has a particularly, fond memories for me. And, I always remember the South African fans that had blow-up kangaroos and they were stabbing them in the crowd. Well, we got the last laugh that day when old Alan Donald was like a kangaroo that had been stabbed and couldn't run. And then also, and you wouldn't believe this, I was actually at the, I know I look too young for this, but I was actually at the 1992 semi-final against England that you guys lost at the SCG, where the rain came in and all of a sudden you needed 18 runs off one delivery. So World Cup, South Africa World Cups has given me a lot of joy, I've got to say.
All I can say is I'm glad I was in England at the time as well, living there. I'm glad I wasn't at that game. I went to an earlier game which we won. I didn't go to that game. So I'm relieved. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Yeah, I was also at the Super Sixers game where Herschel Gibbs, dropping of the Steve Waugh catch for listeners who remember it, where he went to celebrate and he dropped the catch, and then Steve Waugh was able to play a famous knock that got Australia into that semi-finals. And I think that sort of, dropped catch from Herschel Gibbs kind of sums up South Africa at World Cups. They just have it in their grasp and then it just goes away.
Okay, we have it in our grasp and it goes away. And so, Menas, when I look at this semi-final, right, it's kind of different to the other ones. Maybe the 99 one is probably more similar. You have a South African team that's humming in this World Cup.
I agree.
Playing really great cricket. They have a situation where they can't play when the roles are reversed, which is weird, but somehow, if we win the toss, you're in trouble, Menas. We're putting down 340.
I agree. But
you have an Australian team who are building their way uncharacteristically, having started really badly, people thinking they're actually not going to make the semi-finals, and then going on this insane run, only bettered by India, to the point where we can't call them underdogs, right? Even though if you look at the head-to-head, South Africa is ahead.
Of course not. I mean, Jesus.
Yeah. But what's precipitated that run and what started that run for Australia? Because we're staring down probably I think is one of the greatest semi-finals ever in World Cup history. 99 was up there. I think this might beat it. It's probably going to be a thriller that South Africans might need therapy, or the Australians might finally need therapy because the curse will be sent back to you.
Well, just on that curse, I was actually thinking, how there's reports that it could rain in Calcutta for a couple of days, and they're a little bit nervous about getting the match done. But no, Mumpo, if it rains for 2 days, South Africa go through because they were number 2 on the ladder. So how funny would it be after all the anguish that South Africa have suffered through if it just rained for 2 days and Australia were knocked out? To me, that would be some kind of sweet justice for South African cricket.
Are there no reserve days?
There is. I think it's Friday. It's a reserve day, but they're saying it's supposed to rain for 2 days. And
for Thursday and Friday. Ooh.
Yes. But I mean, I think they'll get a game in. But can you just imagine if, Pat Cummins had to trudge in and shake, the captain's hand, and that was the end of their World Cup.
There was a Women's World Cup in Australia, in Sydney, where South Africa played Australia in that semi-final. And we were praying for rain. It looked like it was going to get rained out. South Africans were hoping, like, we don't want to get on the field. We don't. And we finally did for 6 overs, and they got demolished.
Of course.
So I don't want...
And England got knocked out. They didn't get a ball bowled in their game against India that day, so they had to do the old Head and I had to shake the hand.
I had to go shake hand. I'll take a handshaking. I'll take it any day on that Friday. So time to do rain dances.
So anyway, to answer your question, I guess what has really turned around Australia's fortune is obviously the top order is fired. So you've had really good contributions from David Warner, Mitch Marsh, especially, as well as Travis Head since he came back in. But also there's one figure and one figure alone that stands taller than the rest, and that's Adam Zampa. He has been superb. He's taken 22 wickets. He's conceding under 5 runs and over. Australia needed Zampa to perform in those middle overs, and he's done it, and it's allowed Australia to control the game a bit. And that's the key area of Australia's resurgence. And they did have their backs were against the wall against Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka were batting well, looking like they were going to get a big score. And captain Pat Cummins took a few wickets, and Adam Zampa bowled well, and Australia skittled Sri Lanka, and then were able to get back in the tournament. But it really comes down to Adam Zampa, because when you only have one spinner in the squad in India, he has to perform.
And I think that's a South African thing as well, right? We've probably got Keshav as our main spinner, and the question obviously is Shamsi, whether you play Shamsi or play one of the quicks, and it's those middle overs for South Africa as well. We've we've managed them quite well in this tournament. It's just we can't take wickets at the end.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
look,
go
yeah,
on. Tim.
yeah. I just want to touch on the Adam Zampa thing. I freely admit I've never been a fan from day one. I've
Yeah,
never
you
quite
don't.
understood how he gets wickets. Over the years, I kind of get it, but I call him the sort of Australian version of Ajanta Mentis. Comes on the scene, bowls wicket to wicket, doesn't spin it a lot, but it's very accurate.
Well, look, that's
So
what
if somebody's
Rashid
gonna,
Khan does.
yeah, exactly. So if somebody is that accurate, although Rashid gives it a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
flight, a little bit more guile. If somebody is like that, bowls wicket to wicket, bowls sort of quite fast, I don't understand why batsmen are playing cross-batted shots to him. I don't think a reverse sweep or a sweep should ever come out of your arsenal when you're playing him. You play him through the V, and you hit him down the ground. I don't actually understand why he is successful. I know what he does. I know he's very accurate, but I don't actually understand his success rate is so phenomenal. As I say, Ajanta Mendes, people saw Mendes and they saw him for about 18 months. They saw what he did and then they never saw him again because they saw him out of the attack. So I don't quite understand. Can you maybe help me? Why is he so successful? Why is
I
he
mean,
still so?
I think you touched on it. It's his accuracy. He doesn't bowl a bad ball, and you can't just play one day cricket hitting through the V. That would be fine in first class cricket or test matches. You could just play straight, but the onus on the batters to score quickly, and he doesn't give you a lot of balls in the zone. So I just think it's that unerring accuracy. He loves to get in the contest. His wrong and is very good. When his wrong and's coming out well, it is a bit of a deadly weapon. So I think it's the accuracy, and batters just can't step and hit him. And he doesn't. When does he bowl a half tracker? When does he even bowl a full toss? I mean, you rarely see him bowl a full bunger, and that's normally a leg he will throw up a couple of them spells. So there's no get out of jail free cards for the batters, and he just preys on their patience. And in this modern game, it's all very nice for you to say, Tim, I'll just play it through the V, but I think cricket's sort of white ball cricket's gone past that.
Yeah, it has.
Yeah,
And if you want to score
I think
boundaries,
so.
you gotta take those risks and try and sweep them across the line, look for other places to score. But obviously, in the middle overs, boundaries are not necessarily at a premium. You don't necessarily need to score boundaries. It's just it's quite interesting that Zampa just has stepped up. He didn't start off well in this World Cup, and all we've seen now is the leading wicket taker with 22 wickets. The other person who didn't start off well, but always is a threat for Australia, and it will continue to be a threat for Australia. And that's David Warner, right? He's now
Yeah.
gone to 499 runs. He's scored 200s and 250s. Meanwhile, and I know South Africans will be looking there going, earlier in the tournament, we were writing his obituary on some, okay, this is his lost tournament. Oh, goodbye, David. You're ending it on a low. But similar to what Quinton de Kock is doing, David's ending it on a high. And the question for us is, we just need him out early. It's that simple.
Yeah. And look, that's a real danger for South Africa because Australia with Warner, Head, and Mitch Marsh, they're going to go hard at the new ball, and if Australia gets off to a fast start, then they're going to be hard to stop. But I still think South Africa matches up well with Warner. The extra pace of Rabada, the angle of Jansen, I think they can trouble him. So I'm really intrigued to see how that goes. And I think that's going to be fascinating. How do Warner and Head go against your opening bowlers?
Yeah, look, because we saw them against Afghanistan, and it was interesting because against those paces they did struggle, right? And then the spinners came on and did the rest of the work with the middle order, which is something else. And that brings us to another man we're going to talk about, right? Oh my word, Glenn Maxwell. Were you asleep? Was it like 6? What time
No.
was it? Were you?
No, I actually I stayed up and watched it all live, so I was very fortunate. Australia was 7 for 91, and I thought I'll just stay up a bit longer because it's important actually for Australia to try and get to 200 for their net run rate. Otherwise, it would have been a real disaster. And then you get into that thing. Well, Maxi's going. You think, oh, he's going to get out soon, so I'll just stay up. And in fact, it was so exciting at the end. I think, what did he go? 6-4, 6-6, or something like that to finish it. I was so excited I couldn't sleep for another hour. So it was just an incredible knock.
Is that the greatest knock ever? Because everyone's talking about it being like the greatest ODI knock in the history of the game, a double century chasing in with your team in that position, and no one's ever done that, even chasing.
Yeah, I think it has to be. I mean, I've got a couple close to it. Viv Richards scored 189 not out in 1984 against England. In a similar situation, Michael Holding made like 10 and Viv put on like 150 with him. But 189 not out off 175 balls in 1984, that's pretty phenomenal. So I'd probably put that one too. And Steve Ward's 120 not out at Headingley against South Africa, I probably put 3. But yeah, that Glenn Maxwell knock was something we'll never see again. The physical duress he was under, he couldn't stand up. He was just standing there and swinging, and it was insane. And to do that chasing, and to just keep going like that to make such a big score, it was breathtaking stuff. And he's the danger player in this semi-final. If he has a good hour or two, it can just turn the game. And Australia's set up well now that they've got a really good platform, and then Maxi comes in down the order trying to ice the cake.
Yeah, and that's what we need to. Yes, Tim?
And all I was going to say is Eric Simon said, when they asked him about it, he said, well, Afghanistan didn't seem to have a plan B. We would have bowled differently. So if he does have a bit of a spurt against us, maybe hopefully we will have a plan B against Maxi, because I do think that was missing from that game from an Afghanistan point of view.
Yeah, you kind of felt like, guys, bowl it a little bit shorter, like drag it a little bit back. Let's see if he's going to try and swing it. He's got no base, so if he's going to try pull across the line, it's going to be a top edge, right? And then you're at the mercy of your fielders, who in Afghanistan's defense weren't that great anyway. So
he was dropped twice as well. There was one that should have been caught that landed between two fielders, and on 33, Mujib dropped an absolute dolly. So I can't imagine South Africa will give Maxwell 3 chances.
It's a World Cup semi-final, Menas. We've seen it before.
But I've actually got to say, though, I'm nervous. I'm nervous because history and trends are meant to be broken. And so, you're nervous, I'm nervous. I mean, but on Thursday night, between the three of us, there are going to be no fingernails left.
And for the most of the time, I'll be at work, so I'm going to probably shouting at the screen, screaming at people, and they won't know what's going on. And I'm like, this team has me. But it's an interesting thing that you say that you're nervous. What makes you nervous?
Well, it's we spoke about it. You spoke about it a bit before in the opener that South Africa have absolutely smashed Australia in recent 50-over cricket. In the World Cup earlier, they beat us by a huge margin. In the lead-up games in South Africa, they just went right over the top of us. And, I'm glad I got it. Like, my prediction of 7-0 was looking good for about half a week. And then South Africa roared back and won a lot of games on the hop. And not only did they beat Australia, but they absolutely smashed us. They were, it was just such a dominating performance. So I actually think this South African team will believe they can beat us. Like, I obviously know there's the World Cup hoodoo, but that aside, I think, South Africa will believe they've got the wood over us a little.
And to a certain extent, that's why I'm slightly confident, is that from a historical perspective, all the games we played against Australia were on the back of some really disappointing results. So in 99, we had just lost to Australia in the Super Sixes. So you come into that semi-final needing a win. That's the game you need to win, right? And then when things don't go your well, you're like, oh, these guys are back again. 2007, it was probably the greatest ODI side of in recent memory. Yes, there was the 4-3-8 game the year before, and that was just one game in isolation. Yes, it did win a series, but it was tight nonetheless. And Australia in that game were breaking barriers. It was the first time someone scored over 400. Ricky Ponting was as cocky as you could ever believe he could be. And that Australian side just steamrolled the entire World Cup. This one is slightly different because it's an Australian side where you can see that there are world-class players in around. Steve Smith still is there, right? But he's not contributing. Mitchell Starc is there. He's also not having a great tournament. Pat Cummins not having a great tournament. It's David Warner, it's Adam Zampa, it's Glenn Maxwell. But if you look at the South African side, you're like, Kagiso's taking wickets. Middle overs, new ball doesn't matter. We've got this young kid named Gerald Coetzee who can bowl it just as fast as Einrich Nokia, and he takes wickets in the middle as well. You've got Marco Jansen, who is probably one of the he's not a find because he's been in international cricket for 2.5 years, but he's growing into his own as an opening bowler. And then from a batting perspective, 5 of the top 6 are on form. The only person who's on form is Temba Bavuma, and he was the one who was laying you to the sword in South Africa in the first place. So I have that, and I'm confident about that. My only thing, and this is maybe to pick some Rugby World Cup, because we've been talking Rugby World Cup for this podcast for a really long time. So for South Africa to win that World Cup in France, we needed all those players who were once World Player of the Year, World Player nominees, to actually play at that level. And you'd need then, or for Australia, all those guys, Steve Smith. I don't know if Marnus can get there. Starc, Cummins, to actually step up a level. But what I know about Australia, when it comes to knockout games, they find a way. And that's where my nervousness comes in, is that I'm confident that this team can get through. But I'm worried that Australia will then give us the game, this generation's game of their lives. And then on top of that, you win the toss, you bat first, and we're in all sorts of trouble because somehow we just can't chase in ODI cricket. So I think for me, that's where it is, right? And to a certain extent, that's the nervousness.
Well, it's a bit like in 1996 when South Africa were clearly the best 50 over side in the world. They get to the quarterfinals and they come up against a rampaging Brian Lara and he knocks them out. It's a bit like in was it 2003 where the team's in top form and Sean Pollock just gets his sums wrong. You just never know what can happen in World Cup cricket. Like if you're right, if Starc has a great day and just takes a couple of wickets with the new ball, then that could send the tremors down the South African team.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, but let's talk about that middle order. Steve Smith, Marnus, Marcus Stoinis. Obviously, there's a discussion around that.
Yes.
What's your take on? Obviously, Marnus hasn't had a great tournament. Josh Inglis hasn't had a great tournament. But obviously, Josh Inglis is the wicketkeeper, has got the gloves. Steve Smith hasn't had a great tournament. And we saw with Afghanistan, the moment you expose them, it's just like a walking train.
It's a bit harsh.
Sorry. But the collapses just happen. But obviously, when you have a foundation, it makes it works. But what's your thing with that middle order? Like, is there an ideal middle order 3, 4, 5, 6?
Yeah. I think it's going to shape up something like Steve Smith at 4, Marnus Labuschagne at 5, Glenn Maxwell at 6, Josh Inglis at 7. I think that's the way it'll shape up, and I think Marcus Stoinis will just miss out. And I think Stoinis will miss out for a couple of reasons. He hasn't had a good series with the bat. He hasn't bowled much, so I don't think Pat Cummins needs that bowling option. And Marnus has batted well historically in 50 over cricket against South Africa. He's made a lot of runs, so it's a good matchup for Marnus, and that gives us the bit of protection that if Rabada does have a good spell where he knocks over a couple in the middle, we've still got some batters who can rebuild the innings. And also we've got Marnus, Jonty Rhodes, Labuschagne out there. I mean, he is affecting runouts, doing the full body dives. He won the game against New Zealand with his fielding, 2 runouts against Bangladesh. I think he's commented that he had a poster of Jonty Rhodes with that famous dive on his wall growing up, and he was able to recreate it. So I think Marnus just gets the edge over Stoinis. I'm still not sure the selectors will go that way, but I think that's the favorite at the moment.
Yeah. Look, I like the whole Marnus thing, Tim, largely because it's a batter, right? Someone who can score big runs when called upon. We love Marcus Stoinis, and I think he gives them that X factor, right? Who do you prefer from a South African perspective?
I prefer if they go with the all-rounders. We discussed previously about the home series against Australia. We discussed about how Australia were going to go to this World Cup with a whole load of all-rounders. And to a large extent, they actually haven't kicked on. They haven't had great World Cups. I think and I think a similar thing happened with England. England picked a whole bunch of all-rounders, and they all completely failed. People like Livingston. It's the out-and-out individuals. The out-and-out individuals that did the business. The out-and-out fast bowler, the out-and-out batsman whose sole job is to either bat or bowl, who have done the business. I get that Labuschagne is not scoring at 100 strike rate. He's a quality player. He's contributing. He's contributing with the runs. He's contributing with the wickets in terms of the run-outs. He's contributing with the performance. So I think it makes a huge. If I'm a South African, I want them to pick Stoinis and Green. If they pick Stoinis and Green, I am cock-a-hoop. I very much doubt they will.
With you, Tim.
But if they do, I'll be very happy.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've seen Australia chase before, and they do a really, really great job. But in that semi-final, Millis, in Kolkata, are you winning the toss and batting first to test South Africa again, or are you wanting to put runs on the wanting to take wickets and put them under pressure and see if you can't pick them off?
Well, I want to say first, I'm privileged to have the role of Australian captain, so I accept the honour with great humility. But look, I obviously have to see the pitch, and I've got a conspiracy theory. I think India will want to play South Africa in the final. So I think India will want a turning track in Calcutta because Australia, we know their weakness is against spin in the middle overs. So I think Calcutta is going to spin, and traditionally it is a slower, it does take turn. And therefore, you want to win the toss and bat first. That's my decision if I win the toss.
Tim, captain of South Africa, congratulations.
Well done.
What are you doing?
It's a no-brainer, dude. It's a no-brainer. we are sticking our head in the sand, and we are batting first. It doesn't matter what we've done chasing. We are batting first.
So Team Australia bats first. So Team Australia bats first. When do you start getting nervous? Like when we get over 120, when we get over 150? Like when do you nerves really start to
200? 200, it's like 220 actually. 220 is like the Pakistan line.
Anything over the sort of 225 mark. Look, I can show you the stats here of the performance of the World Cup, and I can say South Africa's going to win comfortably. Stark averaging 40. Cummins averaging 40 with the ball. Besides those individual performances from Marsh and Maxwell, they're averaging in the 30s with the bat. The only guy that's averaging over 40 is Warner. We've got Klaasen, Risa, Markram, Rassie and Quinton all averaging over 50 with the bat. So all those stats say to you that South Africa's going to win. South Africa's the better side. This is a one-off game. Australia know how to win these games. That's my worry. Australia know how to win these games. It doesn't matter what's happened beforehand. It's a huge worry. All the way through the World Cup, I've been wanting you guys to be knocked out. I was just
yes. You're the one team. We're going to take it England. We're going to take it England.
Yeah, but it's too hard. They're like the bottom of the table, so that's not the way the World Cup works.
But they weren't at the beginning of the World Cup. At the beginning of the World Cup, they were everybody's favourite with India.
Same.
So I was, and as it went on, I thought, okay, they're probably going to make it because everybody else is so crap. But can we not play them in the semis, please? Can we play anybody but Australia in the semis? Because at least at the final, if it's at the final, we've kind of done something. We've got over the hurdle. We've made that final.
Absolutely.
We've won a knockout game.
We've won a knockout game. We can, whatever happened in that final, we could say we've done it. Where we are now, it's a whole lot of pain. It's a whole lot of pain, which I'm not prepared for.
Tim.
But
So
no, I'm
next
not.
question, Tim. Next question.
Yeah, my next question.
Or are you playing Shamsi in Kolkata? And who are you dropping him for?
I'm not playing Shamsi. I'm not playing Shamsi.
Are you not listening to me?
The only way I'm playing Shamsi is if we play New Zealand in the final. Potentially, again, it would be pitch dependent. If we play New Zealand in the final, and that they say play two spinners, Shamsi plays. Shamsi does not play. No,
why?
Because I want that extra bit of pace. I want that wicket taking ability. Wicket taking ability. I want wickets. That's my watch. And I also worry a little bit of where Shamsi is at the moment. We said in the previous podcast, as I said to you, as much as he's a surprise bowler, there wasn't any surprise in that game against India. India knew exactly what he was going to do, judged on where his balls were pitching. Australia are not a stupid side. They were clever individuals. They will have watched that footage and they would have said, okay, so everything that is pitching on the stumps is going towards leg stump. We're going to just work and do exactly what India did. So if you're playing Shamsi, you are taking a risk. In the same way, I know we haven't discussed this, in the same way, if you are picking an injured Timber, if he's 85% fit, I'm not picking him. I know the symbolism, I know the importance, I get all that. I'm not picking an injured player. If he's 100% fit, I'm picking him. That there is no discussion.
I think there's a conspiracy theory around that. Yes, we saw him limping and everything else, but why is everyone worried about Timber not being sent for scans? There are medical doctors in that team.
Because of 2015, we picked an injured Vernon Philander in 2015, and that cost us the game. Vernon Philander got slaughtered. He's a fantastic bowler, but he wasn't fit. That is the root. It's got nothing to do. That is why, because historically, we have made a decision which has cost us the game. I want a decision on the field to cost us the game. A drop catch, a missed run out, and something that the batsman, the bowler does cost us the game. I think I can say fine. I don't want something
about that hamstring. Is that if it was one thing about that hamstring, right? Is that he would have gone for scans had he not continued to play. The fact that he continued to play kind of gave me an indication that it wasn't bad enough. Right.
Yeah, but sometimes they go for a scan, they just don't want to know. They're just like, I'll just play through the bone.
And the fact that Timber continued, right? And because he literally pulled it in the first over of the game and he fielded for 50. He didn't look good, but he's out there, right? You know how excruciatingly painful a hamstring is once you've pulled it, right? Because it's always there, it's always niggling, right? And the fact that he still even managed to bat and have it, because the batting strap goes right over it, right? And you're busy running up and down and he's busy limping his way through. It gave me an indication there on the field that it's not as serious. It requires a lot of massage and a lot of rest, right? And so my assumption was when the Proteas put him out there in a game that doesn't matter, right? It was a situation where, because I know Rob wouldn't have risked it. If Rob needed him out to save him for the semi-final, he wouldn't have allowed him to bat, right? And
so you're confident he'll play.
Yeah, and so that's where I'm getting it. I know there's a lot of mass hysteria around the national hamstring, but like yesterday, everyone's complaining that they didn't send him for scans, and I'm like, dudes, he was in the game for he played 70 overs of that game or 60 overs of that game, right? And so I was in there going, I hope it's not that bad. I hope he's not, because everyone was saying he was aggravating it, and yeah, you can, but the physios are the ones who are going to guide you. And yes, we know what South Africa's done and everything else, but my thing is that I'm thinking it's positive, and I know I won't take an 85% timber, so I agree with you on that. My only, and it's not about a symbolism thing, it's just about a player's safety, right? And it's the whole Angelo Matthews, oh, he couldn't have batted with a helmet type of vibe. I get it, I understand it, but it's just about player safety. And so my thing is, I agree with you. If he's not fit, he doesn't play. My only thing is, there's some things you could have taken out of that game that kind of gave an indication that he was okay with it. Yes, he wasn't 100% on the field, but it wasn't bad enough for him to come off. Right. And that for me kind of, and to a certain extent, we actually needed that partnership to win that game, because that was like outside of the Petluguayo partnership there at the end with Rassi, that 64 that he put on is exactly what I would want against Australia. Because if I'm 64 without loss off the 10, Menes is in trouble.
What?
Because,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't want to, because the other thing is, right, everyone's talking about Reza Hendricks, and I love Reza. I'm a massive fan of him, and I know he can do the job for us. And everyone's talking about form, and he's had Timber's had 6 games. There's no way I am changing that formula. I have 4 batters who are averaging over 50. That's more than enough for me to win that game against Australia. And if Timber scores runs, a fully fit Timber scores runs, we're actually walking. We might as well start booking flights to Ahmedabad in the first 50 overs if we bat first. Even in a chase, and that's what is so important about the game against Afghanistan. You kind of saw the new blueprint. And that new blueprint was, it's Timber and Rassi who are going to line the spine of that chase and anchor it down, and then we're going to try and use the other batters to try get us over the line. The only issue is we don't bat to 9 like Australia. We don't have a Pat Cummins who can do 10 for I don't know how many balls and have a Glenn Maxwell on the other end. And that's the thing for me about batting second. And that's why if we are batting second between 220 and 250, if it goes over 250, might as well go shopping, go do something, because you're going to need a therapist.
Confident. Yeah.
But
I imagine the South African team therapist is working overtime this week. And judging by the way you two are carrying on, I hope they brought in an extra person. They
need an extra person, because
probably revolving door at the moment.
No, it's something that's baffling us, right? How can this team be so dominant at the start of a game with the bat, but when it's the other side and you're batting second, they look like the worst team in the world? And to certain extent.
And unlike in previous tours and World Cups, we actually have somebody there. We have a mental coach who is actually there in the dressing room talking to these players. So hopefully something come good. Menes, before we go, I wanted to ask you, what was the decision between bringing Inglis back in mid-tournament? What's the thinking behind that, do you think?
I think there was a feeling Alex Carey had gone a bit cold with the bat. And Inglis is a pretty good finisher. So I think it was a little bit about team balance that, was spoken about. It was Smith and Marnus Labuschagne play a bit more conventionally, and so does Alex Carey. Whereas Inglis is a more of a T20 cricketer. He plays a lot of T20 cricket, and he's got the reverse laps and the reverse sweeps. And so they brought him in, I think, for balance, just to give them another finishing option. It hasn't really worked, and I kind of feel sorry for Inglis that, I think this should have been decided before the World Cup. Yes. We had all those warm-up games. That's when you say to Inglis, look, we're going to back you in for the World Cup. Here's a couple of games to get set, rather than you drop him in when we've already lost a couple. So he's had a tough World Cup, but he is a dynamic player and one to watch. If we get off to a bit of if the top order lays a platform, he still is a danger man.
So Thursday, right? So how does Australia win that game? And who, outside of Warner, Zampa, and Mitch Marsh, who is that player who's going to put up his hand and say, I'm taking you to the promised land?
Well, I think we just turn up and go, boo, and then South Africa just runs away.
That's not happening. We're going to be there still.
Oh, look, I think who's going to take the tournament and run away with it? I mean, I think it'll be one of those heavy-duty players. It'll be a Mitchell Stark with the new ball who does something special, or a David Warner that has one last little victory over South Africa. Sets it up with a big 100. So yeah, it's hard to tell. But if we bat second, then Glenn Maxwell is going to be really important, because I think the nerves will set in, it'll turn, and we'll need someone who can finish the chase off.
Yeah. Tim, who needs to have a good game for South Africa?
The mental coach.
Yeah, I know he has to have a splendid week.
If they win, he's player of the match.
Yeah.
Let's
100%.
Let's go with the prodigal son, Paul. Let's go with Aiden. Let's go with Aiden. Let's go with him.
I'll stop calling him pretty privileged if he does that. I won't lie. And to a certain extent, he's very important, right? Obviously, we've seen Timber struggles, but that top order, Quinton de Kock, is playing out of his world, and he's not going to let up. And he's like David Warner. They just play it one gear the whole way through. And then, yeah, Rassie is also important, but for me, I agree with you. It's Aiden. David Miller as well at the back end. The ability to score 100 runs in the final 10 overs, that's going to be very key, batting first. And him and Heinrich Klaassen just need to get that mojo back, that formula going back.
I think the important thing for us, though, is the team. As I say, I can show you all the performances of the batting and bowling, and they are performing as a team. So as much as I can say to you, I want Aiden to make 150 on Thursday.
Ooh. Or like 110, right?
If the team performs like they've been performing, we win. We win on Thursday, because that's contributions from the majority of 6, 7, 8 players. 8 players. If we get a performance from 8 or 9 of those players, we win the game. If Aiden makes 150 and we finish off with 220, we lose. It's over. That's. I think our thing is the team. Unlike in previous World Cups where it's been Faf du Plessis, it's been Aiden, it's been
AB,
it's been Dale Steyn, Lance Klusener. This World Cup, it's very much a team ethic. I think that's an important thing. Whereas Australia, Maxwell could win them the game. We saw that against Afghanistan. They could win They could win the World Cup with Maxwell.
It's one of those situations, and to a certain extent, I hope Jonathan Trott told the Afghanistan players this: is that look, you guys tried everything. This guy had an innings that you'll never see again, and that's it. Like, there's nothing more.
You applying for the mental coach job?
I'd like to be there. Because I could think I could do something.
Is it your audition?
Yes, it is. And to a certain extent, if Maxwell has another out of this world game, or if David Warner has another out of this world game, I'd like a little bit of fight back from South Africa, like they showed in that ODI series, and make it competitive. And my worry about this team is the moment somebody punches them, they have a glass jaw, and it like they will tend to retreat. And
I think Australia has that problem as well. So I think that's where these teams match up interestingly, because Australia hasn't quite been able to, ace the big moments recently. They just haven't quite been able to nail it. So I think both teams are a little fragile, which means, we could get one of, some of the best games are riddled with mistakes.
And to a certain extent, the nature of that, and that's my other question to Tim. Marco Jansen was dropped for Andile Petluguayo. Obviously, it was a resting thing. We know that. Do you bring him in? Do you give him that new ball in a World Cup semi-final in the same stadium where he bowled 3 wides in the first over?
Yeah. Look, you said it, Marco. This is your stage. You're here. This is your time to perform. What happened against India can happen. And I said before, it was going to happen. He was going to have a shocker of a day. that happens. It was a shocker of a day. It was the occasion. It was the opposition. It was the crowd. That's understandable. I'm not saying it won't happen against Australia because it's a semi-final, but he's got to play. He's got to play, and he's got to open. Because if he
And
gets
Gerald
early,
plays well.
If he gets David Warner and Steve Smith early, that's curtains
Game
for
over.
Australia to a large extent.
Well, not quite.
That's
No, obviously Mitch
so-
Marsh is there.
so
Travis
Marco
Head.
has to play. Yeah.
Yeah.
Travis.
Okay. Cool. I know Menace is gonna say, Australia's gonna win, and I know we're gonna say South Africa's gonna win. So we're not even gonna go do that. All we're gonna say is good luck, Menace. It's an iconic World Cup moment. If the ICC wants a semi-final, it's not in. Yes, the other one should actually be India, Pakistan, but for everyone else, it should be Australia, South Africa, right? I get the whole Ashes thing, but in World Cups, it's Australia, South Africa. So we've got another one, 8 years apart, and yeah, good luck to you. I hope nobody lose. Well, I hope you lose it before at the toss, and for the rest of us, we hope that it's just an easy Thursday through. Obviously, you'll be a Thursday evening, so you'll be drinking wine, having a good time. Great, so enjoy it. I think it's going to be a great day of cricket, and an ICC World Cup with both our nations is amazing.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. You're right. It is a fascinating matchup and a storied history. And, I have such fond memories of, running onto Edgbaston and seeing the Aussie team embracing as Alan Donald and Lance Klusener just trudged off. And, I'm heading towards the middle there. So, whenever Australia and South Africa come up against each other at World Cups, it certainly brings back fond memories. And, yeah, I think it's going to be a great game. We're both nervous. Both sets of fans are nervous. So I think, hopefully Australia comes out on top.
And nerves are good. And then we hope New Zealand, if you're listening to this, if anyone in New Zealand is listening, please pass it on to the team. I'm applying for mentor coach there as well. Murphy's Law has to happen sometime. Please, can it happen with you? They can't win 10 in a row. There's no way. You can't allow them to do this. I know they're playing at home, but please send them home. So then either one of us, Australia, South Africa, can actually just walk home with the trophy.
Then it's New Zealand and one of the teams playing in an empty stadium in America next week. Which is like, 6 backpackers with the overseas Aussie flag.
Yes, that's what we want. So Trent Bolt, Devin, Rachin Ravindra, please, guys, do something. Give us something. But yeah, hope it's a great game. Menace, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
All the best. And yeah. Hopefully, well, I'm going to say hopefully South Africa get 2 games this week, but yeah, good luck.
Yeah, well, all the listeners should tune into the Cricket Unfiltered podcast after the match. We'll be releasing an episode reflecting on the game, so you'll either get me, crying into my coffee in the morning afterwards, or you'll get me elated. So tune in to the Cricket Unfiltered podcast for the review.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll put a link in the show notes as well.
It's a really good podcast, though, to listen to that. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll put a link in the show notes for the Cricket Unfiltered link. And please go there and have a look. Menace, we really do appreciate you. And yeah, good luck. And yeah, advance Australian fair or whatever you guys sing.
Thanks, guys. You're nice.
Cheers. Bye. Tim. Okay, Menace is gone. Let's do mental coach things. Okay. To the Proteas. There's one thing I ask from you. Arrive at the stadium and believe that you can win this game. You've beaten these guys many times before. The spot isn't a new spot. It's just a game of cricket that matters a little bit more, but it's still a game of cricket. The games that you dreamt about playing. This is your moment. This is your moment to, do something that nobody in South African cricket has done. And I hope that you don't take that for granted. Because for me, Tim, that's what I'd have loved to be in the spot. But I can't. You and I can't, but they are there. So it's just one of those moments. Like we're here now. And this isn't the end of the journey. There's still one more. I'm going to do another one if we make it to the final, right? Because this is it, right? No drama. Yes. Don't look at social media. Don't look at ICC matches because they'll show you 99. They'll even show you 2007. But this is where we break it. We break it here. We start well. If they come at you, you go back. And that's all I ask is in that India game, first 10 overs, they punched you. And we just sat there and we just try to ease the game out. No, fight back. Always. It's never over. Even in the last 10, even if you're 10 down and 11 down, talking to you, Lungi, I'm talking to you. Who will it be? Can't be KG. It's Lungi, Joe bats at 8. It'll be, Lungi and KG. Chatting to you two. Soweto Lara. If we're 10 down, we need 20. I'm backing you. Take us home. It's your moment. There's moments. This is the moment. If you want to be remembered forever, this is it. If you have that little piece of narcissism inside of you, I know our cricketers are very humble, but there's that little piece where you're like, this is where the greats are made. This is where your career is made. If you score 100 in a World Cup semi-final, you take your team home. If you take a 5 in a World Cup semi-final, you take your team home. They'll remember this thing. Every single World Cup will have your moment. They'll be like, remember that moment where Temba Bavuma scored 100 in semi-final? It'll be that. That moment where Aiden blew Australia away with 150. It'll always be immortalized. This is that moment, that 300 moment. This is it. There's no turning back. There's no tomorrow. There's no third and fourth place playoff where we, shake hands in some weird stadium in India that nobody cares about. There's nothing. It's over. This is it. Like we can't. There's no movement here. So I hope that they do well, Tim. I really, really do. I really, really hope they take us home. I just need, we've arrived at the spot so many times. And this time, can we just celebrate? I want to dance in the streets, that we made it to a World Cup final. I want to finally say that the Proteas are the most successful sports team in South Africa. They just don't win World Cups.
Yes.
That win-loss
Outside
record
World
is
Cups.
out of the charts. Off the
Yeah.
charts. There's no other team that does this. Bafana doesn't do. The Springboks have a 67% win rate. The Proteas they've beaten. There's no team in world cricket that has a South Africa has a negative win-loss ratio against. You think it's Australia? No, it's not. You think it's India? No, it's not. We dominate these guys out of competition. This is your chance. Even now, we can do it. A flip of a coin. Temba, hey, dude, it's 50-50. You've been losing tosses. Come on, my man. Give us something. But yeah, anyway, guys, Tim, any final words before we go?
Take a day off work on Thursday.
Oh,
It's Monday now. Speak to your boss. It's now the middle of November. I'm sure you are due holidays. I'm sure you are.
Yes, I know.
But Thursday, take it off. Take it off.
Oh,
Start it by. Get your drinks in. Get your food in.
it starts at 10
settle in
a.m.,
for-
dude.
settle
I
in.
can't be drinking
Huh?
at 10 a.m.
Yes,
Starts
you
at
can.
10 a.m. I can't be drinking at 10.
It's a World Cup semi-final. You can drink
Yeah.
when you wake up. It's a World Cup semi-final. Get the hairs in. Get the hairs in. I want to see people watching this game, watching on the laptops, watching on the TV, watching on their phones. Get the hairs in. Support the boys. The boys
Yeah.
need the support. This is the
They
time. This is the time. This is
Yeah.
the team. This is the performance. This is now. These teams that we're playing now are going to be better in 4 years. Australia's going to be better. I'm telling you now.
Yes.
They're going to be better. New Zealand
India
is going to
gonna
be
be
better.
out of this
England's
world.
going to be miles better. This
Yes.
is the chance to win a World Cup. Take it.
Yeah,
Take it.
this is it. As
So
Tim
like I
said,
said, just take it.
it's there. It's for you to take it. We'll probably be back for a Friday episode. We might even make a live episode when we make the final. It'll be a review and oh snap, we're in the World Cup final. I think that'll be the name of that podcast. So Proteas, please give me the opportunity to give the people what they want. We're in the World Cup final. Please get us there. Get us there. We'll take you the final way home. Let's get through this game. Outside of that, everyone, thank you to Menas. Good luck to the Proteas. Thanks, Tim. And yeah, have a great week. As Tim says, take the day off, start a braai, start drinking, support the boys. The Proteas really do need it. The same support you gave for the Springboks, the same support you gave for Banyana Banyana, the same support you gave for the Proteas women earlier this year. and the netball team, the Spa Proteas, please bring that same level of energy. Thursday is going to be a humdinger. Thursday is going to be one of the greatest games of cricket you will have ever seen. Why? Because of the first time South Africa win a knockout game in a World Cup and they enter the final. We're going to be crying. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be amazing. And we're going to get there. Good luck to Temba and the boys. From ourselves here at the Full Quarter Podcast, you know what you need to do. Send comments, subscribe, like, follow us, listen on audio, do all those beautiful things. And we'll see you later this week for a World Cup semi-final review and a final preview. Yes, I said it. Outside of that, goodbye and lesale kakagiso.